Good afternoon, everyone. It's Zach.
Hey, Sabrina, Dr. Solt here.
How's it going, guys? We made some in our group yesterday. We asked a couple of questions, like what kind of things that we could talk about, what kind of stuff you guys would be interested in. Did you see anything in there?
We'll just go through some of these questions and give them an answer. One of the first questions we got was, and I think this question comes off of probably some of the podcast interviews that I've done, where I talk a lot about helping guys with overcoming ED. And one of the tidbits that I like to share is that using mouthwash will actually negatively affect erectile function, and it has to do with the fact that the antimicrobials that are present in mouthwash will actually kill off the beneficial bacteria in your mouth that are responsible for producing nitric oxide, which is what relaxes your blood vessels. So by killing that off, you actually decrease the blood flow to all of the important parts. And the person was asking whether or not a saline rinse would affect nitric oxide in the same way, and no, it won't. You're not going to be being that sort of killing off that you would with using those very, very strong antimicrobials. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. The other part of this question here is, well, why are we using mouthwash in the first place? If there's a problem with bad breath, which medical term for that is halitosis, if there's a problem with halitosis, then you need to be looking at other things. So going to the dentist, getting checked out for gingivitis, and possibly even focusing on your digestion. A lot of the breath issues that the people experience, it's not necessarily from what's coming necessarily in the mouth, but actually the gases that are coming from your digestive system in general. So if that's a problem, you might want to consider um, examining your diet. Like, what are you actually eating? All sorts of things. We could go down a rabbit hole on this one, but I'll leave that for that. Anything you want to add?
About the breath, or
Mm-hmm.
no? I could smell everybody's breath. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, if you have been on carnivore for a long time, and if you have that superpower, I'd like to call it, let us know. I mean, listen, I don't plan
Just
on
talking about is that you can you can smell everybody's breath. Specifically, it feels like the more carbohydrates somebody has, the more like
like it
sweet
ferments.
or like fermented smell I could smell in somebody's breath. And I have to stay like 5 feet away from somebody to avoid it. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's like if you're in my personal space, I can tell if you've had carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I don't know if you guys. I asked it once before, and a bunch of people say, "Oh yeah, I can." I have that same thing, so it must be pretty common.
I already had a really great sense of smell prior to this, and so it's crazy because like even going to the gym is a really tough time for me now because I get super nauseous. Like the smells that are in the gym, like because it's sweaty people and they're breathing extra heavy. It's really bad for me. Like if I was gonna stop carnivore, it's gonna be because my sense of smell is too much and I just can't like exist. Like I can't be around people because it makes me nauseous, and I would rather take like childbirth over being nauseous. Like I hate being nauseous that much. Like, and I've done natural childbirth, so. Yes. Anything else on that? I can also smell ketone breath really bad. So people who are in ketosis, yeah, I really get that too. All right. Concern about getting enough fat. Do you sometimes add butter to get more fat in a meal? I put butter on my steaks every day, and I actually just did another set of labs on myself, and I have an increase in my LDL, which is fine, but my triglycerides actually went down. They were already low to begin with. They actually went even lower, and my HDL actually went up. So I would I would default your fat consumption to a couple things. One being, how are your stools? Are they super, super loose? Are they doing okay? How often are you having them? And then two, what do your labs look like? Are you well within ranges on your cholesterol panel, or are you having a lot of other inflammation happening too? Especially on the carnivore diet, like you should be getting your fats from good sources, which means things shouldn't be negatively impacting you. But at the same time, a lot of us are transitioning off of a standard American diet, or maybe we did consume more things like omega-6s in the form of things like canola oil and stuff like that, and you might have some weird transitioning stuff happen too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what are we talking about?
It's about the
getting enough fat. Yeah, I mean, I stopped doing that just because I really didn't notice a difference. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
I do want to make the differentiation though between getting enough fat in the first place versus getting additional fat, right? So purpose of carnivore isn't necessarily to be in ketosis. Ketosis can be a very, very stressful state for most people. And that's not what we're doing here. Keto and carnivore are two very separate things. You can be in ketosis while doing carnivore, but that's not usually the goal. So adequate fat in that regard should simply mean, well, what's going to balance us out physiologically? Because there is such a thing as you can get too much protein, and it can be taxing on your kidneys depending on who you are. If there's too much exercise happening, for example, sometimes people can throw their sometimes people can throw their kidneys into some degree of damage if they are doing excess exercise in the presence of excessive protein. We see this happening a lot with actually people in the CrossFit community who end up developing something called rhabdomyolysis, and it's actually a additional breakdown of your own musculature. Anyway, we don't have to go into that, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. But anyway, back to the fat conversation. Get fat in adequate ratios in fatty sources of meat, and definitely make sure you're getting some. Um, I think
I saw a good one here. That's electrolytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't know if you, for those of us who've gone carnivore and had electrolyte issues, it's pretty severe. I had some, and it still comes and goes. It's like heart palpitations, and it seems to be worse when I lay down and don't do anything. If I'm running around and doing stuff, I'm fine. I don't feel anything. But as soon as I stop and I would lay down, I would get to like don't. And then also lately I've noticed sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I think it's just like these crazy cortisol spikes.
And I think it's also worth mentioning here that his electrolyte imbalances that are creating those symptoms are happening in the presence of overtraining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're just gonna throw that out there.
Somebody told me today, I don't know who it was, it's probably my doctor, I don't listen to her, said that I should probably take a month off from the gym.
Listen,
I might do that.
There can be too much of a good thing when it comes to physical activity. If we think about it, human beings used to stay fit and active by walking to a new location in the world to build a new city or civilization, and they would construct their own homes, and they would go hunt, and they would do these things in an active part of their life. Really, this idea of quote unquote bodybuilding and like being physically active the way that we are now really didn't come about until like last century, like maybe 50 years ago.
It's kind of dumb too, and if you look at the mortality rates of people that bodybuild, it's pretty.
Muscle becomes a liability.
Yeah,
sure, it looks good and it's super aesthetic, and it makes and it sets you apart from the other person as far as, hey, look, I'm visibly wearing my discipline, my dedication.
I wonder if I stop working out, I could just keep my muscle and I don't have to worry about it.
You can't. Mature muscle is really hard to lose. That's another conversation as well. There is so this is funny. As a physician, just knowing this, I can tell just by looking at a person whether or not their muscle was achieved through actual weightlifting versus cheating with gym supplements, right? It's the difference between what looks like mature muscle, which his is. I will 1,000% attest to the fact that he has never done any gear or any sort of locker room stuff. One, because I would never allow it. And then two, because he's just got high standards for himself too. But that being said, if you have done that, this is no shame on you at all. A lot of times people do this because they see other people doing it, they're being influenced in it, they're trying to get results, and they're trying to get them faster than they normally would. But I promise you, there is no substitution for mature muscle, and you cannot trick your physiology. So him, if he did stop working out, he really wouldn't lose much size unless he was also fasting or getting into caloric deficit regularly, because your body still has its caloric needs on a daily basis, and its protein requirements, fat requirements. It will get it from somewhere. It'll take it from yours. Like your body will start eating away your own muscle if you stop giving it the right amount of things like protein. So no, he would probably still maintain even if he didn't work out for a while. And that doesn't mean no movement, right? It doesn't mean you start being sedentary, but I really do think that there is a big differentiator between exercising so purposefully all of the time. I don't think we need to be under that much stress all the time. I think it releases too much cortisol. I think you can get the negative effects like he's experiencing with the electrolyte imbalances. Now, me on the other hand, I have 1 serving of electrolytes per day. I put salt on my meat. I have no problems. I've never had palpitations. I've never waked during the night to go pee. And I mean, while on carnivore, like that would sometimes be a thing even previous to this, but I actually haven't had that as a problem. A lot of people do experience that. They'll wake in the middle of the night, but I'm also not overtraining.
Yeah, I probably overtrain. I think that's one of the reasons why my cholesterol is always pretty high too. I think from overtraining.
Yeah, his cholesterol is interesting.
Yeah.
We've been monitoring his labs. So we did a set of labs on him back in November, and then he really started doing carnivore like January, like beginning of January. It's almost like a New Year's resolution sort of thing. But so since then, we've done probably 3 sets of labs, and it's just been some wonky changes. I don't know if you guys follow Dr. Paul Saladino, but he had some weird cholesterol stuff as well, and he actually recently just shared his most recent labs, and his stuff corrected with his like new modified animal-based diet. So without him changing his diet right now, I think what our next step is going to be for managing his situation, because if you guys saw his other previous YouTube video where he went into his coronary calcium score, obviously there's something underlying that needs to be addressed. Now, the interesting thing is when we compare our labs and we know how we're both eating, mine continue to improve and his continue to somewhat worsen. And this goes back to this conversation that, okay, every person is completely different. We are all so different. So I have this company that I'm working with, and I just ran the test on myself. I haven't got my results back yet. It's probably going to be another month or so. But it is probably one of the most actionable DNA tests that you can take, as far as, okay, it's going to give us real data that we can do stuff with. It's not just going to tell you what your stuff, whatever. So I think the next step for him is probably going to be running that test so we can actually see what's going on at this DNA expression level.
I'm also going to stop dairy because I've been consistently having like heavy cream and stuff like that. I think for some people it can cause reactions. So I've consistently been having it, and I've tried to stop it, and then I would say, oh, I'm going to stop it, and then I would go back, and it's very addictive. So I just need to stop cream too and see if that has any effect on some of my labs. But also, yeah, I definitely overtrain. I train harder at the gym than most people do, and that might not be doing me any favors long term.
No, I think it's probably it is definitely doing some damage, because here's the thing: your cholesterol will also reflexively increase in order to be a repair molecule in your body. So do we necessarily want that? I don't know. It's interesting, because again, we didn't just check cholesterol on him. I have this whole expanded cardiac health panel that I do, and it checks inflammatory markers. It checks your apolipoproteins. We also check things like fasting insulin, and it's just been wonky. I think once we actually
insulin's always really low.
Right.
Definitely don't. There's no problems with
the
anything on the metabolic side. The blood sugar side is really good.
It's fine. I think that once we actually get like a resolution of all of this and figure it out, we'll probably do like a big Zoom where I can like show you the labs, because this is a really great learning experience for me as a provider as well. But I don't want to do that right now and have this be an open loop for people, because that would frustrate me. I hate open loops on stories.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I mean, we're happy to share. Like, we're happy to be pretty transparent. So next, we did have a question about kids and carnivore. My wife is currently breastfeeding. When can we start to add food recommendations? Okay, so for both our kids, we did what we call baby-led weaning. So when they start showing interest in what you're eating, we would just give them a piece of that. It's so easy and straightforward. Like, we didn't actually have like a scheduled, oh, we're going to give them this and we're going to give them this. It was like, we're eating it. They look interested. Here, try a tiny bite. And then so on and so on and so on. And now we've stuck to that pretty much. Your wife can definitely still do this type of diet. Breastfeeding, I'm still currently breastfeeding, not in this very moment, thank God, because the baby's actually down for a nap right now. He's usually attached to me during these
That's
videos.
why he's not on her, actually. Yeah. Somebody got mad. He was like, why do you have to be breastfeeding when you're making videos? Like, well, because what are we going to do? Put the kid in the other room while they're like...
Yeah, listen, we're parents first. What do we call ourselves? Influencers? I hate that word. But we're parents first. We're family first, and we're not going to create content while neglecting our children.
Right.
It's really that simple. Like, if we had to pick them.
And also, like, when you're making a video, like, the kid can feel your energy's going towards something else, so that makes them want you, right? It's always the same way. She sees us doing that. She wants to.
But no, we will always be family first. And if it makes you uncomfortable seeing a very natural human thing, you have way bigger issues than.
Yeah, we can't help you.
We cannot help you. Like, I'm sorry, figure your shit out and then come back, because you will not be able to get to any other further point in your life if you're going to judge someone for breastfeeding. Anyway, somebody else asked
My workout routine.
his workout routine.
I just got done explaining how my workout routine is dumb and probably too hard on the body. And yes, I have the benefits of muscles and strength, but I'm strongly considering not retiring, but maybe just like, just slowing it down just a tad. I mean, I'm almost 40. I'm not trying. I don't got anything to prove. I get laid every day, and I'm not.
So I think we should just touch on working out in general, in the sense that working out is going to be beneficial, and having lean muscle mass is going to be beneficial because of the benefits that it provides your body. So the actual act of working out is going to release positive hormones. It's also going to release something in your brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is going to just help with your overall cognitive function. And your cognitive function directs everything else in your life: how you show up, how you think, how you behave, how you perform. So that in and of itself, as like its own anti-anxiety, antidepressant, I think physical activity is so key. Also, putting on a decent amount of muscle. You don't have to look like Zach. Okay, you don't have to have all of that.
What about like just walking? Don't you think that's
walking is quote unquote the best exercise for longevity? But here's the thing about muscle. Okay, and this is especially important for women who have never lifted weights in your life. This is going to be twofold. One, the more muscle that you put on, the more active calories you're going to burn at rest. So if you actually finally want to like lose weight, you will do it better having a slab of muscle on your body than not. Okay, that's just basic physiology. The second thing too, especially for women, as we age, we're going to go through something called menopause. Menopause is basically when your estrogen production stops. We've all heard of those older women who fall down and break a hip because they went into osteopenia and osteoporosis without knowing it. But here's the thing, you are almost guaranteed to get osteoporosis or osteopenia after menopause, because estrogen is one of those things that helps build your bones. Okay, so in addition to that, having more muscle mass on your body and doing the weightlifting is going to provide a positive build on your body, meaning that pressure of lifting the weights on your bones will make them stronger, so that you can go into menopause with a stronger frame, reduce your risk of things like fractures and bone breaks. Now, that even being said, when you head into menopause, if you have the ability to work with a provider that can do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for you, you will cut that risk to almost none. In addition to keeping your skin looking better, keeping you at a really great weight, keeping your brain function on, reducing your risk for things like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, you name it. Okay.
Also with the we were talking about working out. I noticed that when I don't work out, I sleep a lot better.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other indicator that I was overtraining. So like a couple of nights ago, I had a really good workout. I don't know if you saw it. I was like shoulder pressing 440 pounds. I could do that stuff, but then that night I have shit sleep. It's like my body's like, man, we just can't really figure out how to, I don't know if it's cortisol or what have you, but.
So your body repairs while you're sleeping. If you are constantly giving it something to repair, it's going to have a hard time sleeping. Like there's definitely a balance in all of this too. But okay, so back to again working out. So for men and women, like if you are really looking for somewhere to start, I put this in another comment. The website bodybuilding.com has been around since like before I started working out. And I started working out, gosh, had to have been at least 15 years ago, if not longer. It's been around for a while. But so you can still go on that website and actually just find a plan that sounds like it's going to work for you. So if it's a muscle building plan, if it's a, whatever it is you need it to be, I really do emphasize if you want to build some muscle. Dang. If you don't have it. But
so how old were you when you started? I was 15, so what's that, 22 years ago?
Yeah, so I think I was around 14 or 15, and I was in high school. And so there was a YMCA down the street from my high school. So I used to walk there after school, and I would do abs and cardio because I didn't know any better.
20. I've had 22 years in the gym. That's like you could retire at 20 years, right?
Yeah,
that's good.
you can
22
retire.
Is a good retirement age. I think that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I would work out, and then I learned things, and I think I had my first personal trainer when I was like 17.
Never had a personal trainer ever in my life, just so you know.
I was only doing
Never
that.
had one.
But you had mentors in the gym.
I found, you know what I did?
Other dudes.
Let me tell you what I did at the gym. I found the biggest, most fucking obnoxiously strong guy in the gym. And when I was in Atlanta, that was like usually these like big, huge black guys that like their backs were like the size of my fucking house. And I would go up to him and I'd be like, hey, excuse me. They're like, yes, sir. Can you show me how you did that? And they're like, okay, fine. And then eventually I would like, hey, I'll spot you, or let me hold your weight, or I'll pull this or do this for you, and then they would show me stuff. So I'd find the biggest motherfucker there, and the strongest, and that's how I would learn.
As a dude, you can do that. When you are a like literally 14 or 15-year-old girl in a gym, it's really freaking intimidating. I'm actually surprised that I went as much as I did, but I really do have a very sometimes don't give a fuck attitude. Anyway, I didn't have the luxury of having anybody to look up to. And actually the first person that I found that I look up to, I think I was like 16 or 17 years old, and I went to go see a local bodybuilding competition, and there was this girl that was there, and she was competing, and she was also a trainer at my local gym. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go sign up with her. Clearly she knows what she's doing. And that kind of really set me on a great pathway. She's amazing. Her name is Lisa, and she's been, she was a mentor of mine in the fitness industry for a really long period of time. And, I went on to do 4 fitness competitions when I was in med school. So yeah, we'll go on to the next question. Okay. Can ketosis be achieved with several meals a day? How do you know you're in ketosis? So you can get keto strips or a ketone meter. You can ask somebody in your house if you have that ketone breath that smells like nail polish remover. That's a really good way to indicate it.
I think the other thing too is what you're craving, because like when you have really heavy sugar cravings, I think you're craving sugar because that's what you're burning. So, because like for me, if I eat a steak in the middle of the day, I'm not hungry at all for the rest of the day, unless it's just like boredom.
And also, it's going to be easier to be in ketosis if you do OMAD, so 1 meal a day. Right? Yeah. It's going to be way easier because then you know for sure that you are in a fasted and therefore fat burning stage the rest of the time. It's going to be a lot harder to flux in and out, and you might want to actually consider doing a continuous glucose monitor in addition to a ketone check. But there's going to be
what about low blood sugar? Doesn't that kind of indicate if you're...
Well, having low blood sugar doesn't necessarily indicate the presence of ketones, but ketones are what indicate that you're in ketosis.
Speaking of that, I'm going to check what my blood sugar
is. And
all I have is a steak today, so we'll see.
Carnivore on a budget tip. So I think the easiest thing for carnivore on a budget is probably eggs, butter, and ground beef.
Yeah.
You can fit, let's see, what do you got?
82. 86.
82. Or 86, yeah.
So it was, earlier today, I did check it this morning, it was 86, so it hasn't changed. It stays about there.
Yeah, so carnivore on a budget, again, you can get away with doing eggs, butter, ground beef, and that's probably going to serve you pretty well for the most part. And then look for sales. Like, your grocery stores all the time are going to have sales. If you have the ability to buy these things in bulk and put them in a freezer, that's going to be beneficial as well. Practicing the OMAD, the 1 meal a day, especially if you are trying to lose fat, or if you're experimenting with intermittent fasting, that's going to be beneficial too. What else?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just kind of planning everything out. And
yeah, planning your meals too is key, so you don't run into a lot of waste.
If you just, avoiding eating out altogether is going to save the average person a ton of money. So just that aspect alone, and carnivores really can't eat out. I mean, there are a few places that you can, but it's usually you're cooked with seed oil, so it's best to just avoid eating out altogether. There's some like really nice steakhouses that will use real butter and stuff, but I overall just think that avoiding
and if you
restaurants
and buy what's in budget. Like if you truly can't afford like the grass-fed, grass-finished stuff, and like it's only the conventional, great. Like conventional beef is still gonna be better than packaged goods all day long, right? It's progress over perfection all day. Like you do what you can, and there are people that will promote things like, oh, go to McDonald's and get a patty, or Wendy's, or Five Guys.
There's this one lady that's on Instagram. She's got so many followers. She's always like, how to eat carnivore at Sonic, or how to eat carnivore at Arby's. And I'm like, listen, stay the fuck away from fast food. I don't give a shit what you eat there. That food doesn't come from a good place.
Yeah.
Ever, right? There's no fast food that comes from a healthy source.
It's not going to be quality just because you can eat it and it's edible doesn't mean you should. But then here's the other bigger conversation, right? You're voting with your dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to give your hard-earned money that is clearly being stretched as best it can to these companies that continue to raise prices even though their profit margins are massive? And how the hell do you have a profit margin on like a 50-cent burger?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it just like a logical thought process surrounding this. If you are in a pinch and that is the like, if that's all that you have available to you, like you're in rural whatever.
I made a few videos on this. Like when we go travel, we hit up Whole Foods or Sprouts or whatever, the health, quote unquote health, grocery store is.
You can make it work. So listen, you can buy like one of those little George Foreman grills for literally $10. Okay.
They're like 15 now. It's inflation.
Oh, inflation. Sorry. $15. Okay, less than the price of a really fancy ribeye. Way less. Okay, and you can have it, and it'll fit in your luggage really, really easily, and you can plug it in any hotel room, even if there's not a kitchen or anything like that, and you can plop a steak or burger patties on it, and you can buy those anywhere you go. I took that
when we went to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I got one at Target. It was, I think it was about $15, and it was a little George Foreman. And then we went to the only thing that was there was Puerto Rico is a shithole if you ever get a chance to go there, and it's expensive, so don't go.
Yeah, it was like first world prices with like a third world.
I don't know, like why would anybody want to visit there? It's like like Florida's way better, right? I lived there. Yeah. And I don't know why you would go there, but the point is that we took the George Foreman and I went to a Walmart and just bought some frozen burgers because that's all they had. They didn't have anything other than like a small freezer section. Yeah. But at least I was able to get ground beef in a situation where all I would have been able to eat was like food cooked in seed oils, like everything at resorts.
Everything in Puerto Rico is like that's what they do. They do fried foods like the mofongos and all that other stuff.
Fried everything.
So that was one way that we hacked that, and it saved money, it saved time, and we still have that grill that we can now take for future trips. And it doesn't take very much to plug it in, cook and clean up.
Oh, we're almost at 30 minutes. Look at that.
Yeah, we flew through this.
Any other ones? Maybe the last one.
I think that was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, it took a while to go through those, but.
Yes. Well, if you found this useful, we'll probably do another one.
Just a Q&A kind of thing, and ask questions on there. And then this was in our group, Carnivore Harder Happier Healthier on Facebook. So if you would like to join, you can just click join, and it'll allow you in the group. It's a really good group. It's a lot of positive people. A lot of people want to help other people. There's not much drama. There's no hating on people that
we don't
carnivore. There's no if you're carnivore-ish or just eat one extra steak a week because of what we say. I think that's better. That's what we're here for. Meet people where they're at. So
literally meet MEAT.
Meet people where they're at. We gotta use that. We need a shirt. Well, somebody told us to make H3 shirts.
We might do some shirts. Just meet people where they're at.
We will talk to you guys soon. Press the button.
Bye, guys.
Bye.